33 races. 4 years. Not a single loss. Let that settle for a second, because if you understand anything about thoroughbred racing, you understand why that number is borderline offensive to logic. This is a sport designed to produce losers. The variables are endless. Weather, track conditions, bad draws, traffic. A horse that simply woke up on the wrong side of the stable. Elite racehorses at the peak of their careers lose regularly. That is not a flaw in the system, that is the system. Winning streaks in racing don't reach 10 without serious conversation. They don't reach 20 without rewriting record books. 33 consecutive Group 1 level victories against the best horses on the planet sits in a category that has no real comparison. It isn't a streak, it's a statement. An Australian mare named Winx didn't just dominate her sport. She made the competition question whether showing up was worth the humiliation. This is how she did it. Here is the detail that reframes everything. She lost before. Early in her career, Winx was good, genuinely talented, but she was beatable. She finished behind horses that history has since completely forgotten. If you had watched her in those first few races, nothing about her suggested what was coming. She was a promising young filly with a nice turn of foot. That was it. Everything changed on a single afternoon in 2015 at the Sunshine Coast Guineas. The gates open. Within seconds, Winx is swallowed by the field, trapped dead last, completely surrounded, with no clear path and no obvious way out. By every conventional rule of racing, that position at that stage of the race means you are done. You don't win from there, not in a field like this. Her jockey, Hugh Bowman, makes a decision. He pulls her to the extreme outside, widest possible path, burning extra ground, completely alone on the track. And then, she runs. Not the way horses typically run when they find open space. She detonates. The acceleration is so sudden and so violent that the entire field appears to freeze. She goes from last to first in a window of time and distance that the fractions of the race simply should not allow. In that moment, something was born, not just a winning streak, but a version of Winx that had not existed before. Something clicked, or awakened, or locked into place. Her team felt it. Bowman felt it, and over the next 4 years, every rival stable in Australia would feel it too. Analysts and trainers tried to understand what made her so difficult to beat, and what they found didn't match the typical blueprint for a great racehorse. Elite speed, in the traditional imagination, looks like enormous strides, long, sweeping, ground-eating movement. Winx didn't have that. Her stride length was average by elite standards. What was not average, what was genuinely unusual when scientists began measuring it properly, was her stride rate. Where a top horse would take 12 strides across a given stretch of track, Winx was taking 14. She was turning over at a frequency that nothing around her could match. Not more powerful, not longer. Just faster in her rhythm than any other animal on the track. You can train a horse to compete with power. You can train a horse to outlast stamina. But preparing a horse to match a rhythm that operates in a different gear entirely, that is a fundamentally different and largely unsolvable problem. Then came the Cox Plate, the most prestigious weight-for-age race in Australia, the event that defines legacies. She won it, came back the following year, and won it again. Then again. Then a fourth consecutive time. 4 years, same race, same result. A monopoly so complete that the race eventually became less about who would win and more about how far back the others would finish. Rival trainers began doing something that tells you everything about the psychological state of Australian racing. During this period, they stopped riding their own races and started riding against her. Jockeys were instructed to trap her on the rail, cut off her acceleration lanes, box her in with bodies. The goal wasn't to win. The goal was simply to make her uncomfortable. And owners went further than that. They withdrew entirely. Why pay the entry fee? Why put a valuable horse through a visible, public defeat against the same mare? Again, fields shrank. Elite stables with elite horses looked at the entry list, saw her name, and quietly chose a different race. She didn't just beat them. She made them rearrange their entire calendars to avoid her. At some point during those 4 years, Winx stopped being a racehorse in the way the public experienced her. She became something Australia claimed as its own. Cities went quiet when she raced. Offices stopped. Grandstands filled with people who had never placed a bet in their lives, who couldn't have named another horse in the field, who came solely to stand in the presence of something they sensed correctly was unrepeatable. Her trainer, Chris Waller, lived at the center of that pressure every single day. Think about what that actually meant. Every morning workout observed. Every minor irregularity, a slightly uneven step, a muted appetite, anything would be analyzed by a nation waiting for a crack to appear. And if something went wrong, if a mistake was made, Waller would carry the weight of ending the most celebrated streak in the modern history of the sport. That pressure had a physical toll. In post-race interviews after wins, not defeats, Waller would occasionally lose his composure completely, not from sadness. From the release of pressure that had been building for months, easing for 3 minutes while she ran, and then beginning again the moment she crossed the line. Meanwhile, the tactical warfare on the track intensified. There was one race deep in the streak where rival jockeys executed what looked, on paper, like a perfect trap. Winx found herself sealed against the rail, horses stacked on every side, her acceleration completely neutralized, nowhere to go. Exactly what her rivals had been trying to construct for years. Bowman had about 2 seconds. He found a gap, barely a gap, more of an intention than an actual space, and asked her to commit to it. She went through, not around it, through it, physically forcing her way into contact, finding another gear mid-chaos, emerging in front. After that race, there were no great tactical explanations from the rival camp. Some things resist explanation. April 2019, Royal Randwick, Sydney. The Queen Elizabeth Stakes, race 33, the final race of her career. 40,000 people came, and the atmosphere was unlike anything the sport had produced before. Not the tension of a contest that could go either way, something rarer. A crowd gathered to witness an ending, already grieving it before it happened, wanting one final look at something they knew would not come again. She won. She pulled away in the final stretch with that familiar, almost effortless authority, as if she was timing it, holding just enough back to make the moment last, giving the crowd the image they would carry with them forever. Winx retired with over $26 million in earnings and 25 Group 1 victories. Numbers that belong in a different conversation from every other racehorse of her era. But records are just arithmetic. What she actually left behind was a generation of rivals who tried everything available to them, every tactic, every coalition, every trap, and came up empty, consistently, for 4 straight years. She left behind trainers who still measure great horses against a standard she set and that nothing has since approached. Winx was not the biggest, not the most decorated pedigree, not the horse anyone would have predicted to rewrite the sport. She was just the one who refused, for 33 races across 4 relentless years, to be beaten. The ghost that Australian racing has been chasing ever since.